All righty, welcome everyone. So tonight we have with us Amawale Jesse Alexander. Jesse is a teacher, a griot. He is a perpetual abecedarian. He's an old Bell head, which I think is Bell Labs for those of us that needed to look it up. Although I was a past techie, recently retired from that profession, wireless system engineer, as well as a hacker, and a window through which the great I Am shines poet. He's been writing and performing poetry for more than 50 years. If you are looking for this bio that I'm reading, it's not the one that's on the thing. I actually looked him up, and this is his bio that is on the Poets and Writers 50 Forward site. His poetry has won second place in the first Food and Agricultural Organization's Zero Hunger in the first World Food Day 2018 contest, and he placed as a finalist in the 1999 Patterson Literary Review's Allen Ginsberg Poetry Contest. That's so interesting. And of course, those that can see, those that are on this call, you know that our wonderful Hiram LaRue does a Poetry X Hunger site with Feo, and you should go there and check out a lot of the poems on there. I think a lot of us sitting here are on that site as well, have our poetry on that site as well. Jesse was featured at Grace Cavalari's The Poet and the Poem in the 2021 series, Words Out Loud in Virtual Reading. He's read at Evil Grin, he's read at the Davies Memorial Unitarian Church's annual poetry service, the Knitting Factory, Groove Drops, the Samia Multidisciplinary Center, I might have said that wrong. His work has appeared in Free Black Space, Content and Code for Those Living in the Black, I believe it says the Black diaspora. In Sojourners magazine. I actually went and checked you out on Sojourners. Yeah, pretty cool.
Okay, all right.
And yeah, because I'm looking here and I'm saying, and he hasn't been on First Fridays. Like, what is this, right? We gotta rectify that, right? And then he also is drumming between us, Black Love and Erotic Poetry and Drum Voices review, a confluence of literary, cultural, and visual arts. That sounds really cool. And of course, he led the creation of the three-part harmony central using GitHub with visitors and patrons of the three-part harmony farm to support the U.S. Department of Arts and Culture. And again, I think we already said he's a veteran from Bell Labs, and he holds a master's in engineering, in electrical engineering, and from Howard University. And of course, he supports his poetry with amateur radio, science fiction addictions, by managing knowledge for the cloud computing industry. Also, one of his favorite poets is Jesse Toomer, right? Is it Toomer? Yeah, Toomer.
Jesse Toomer.
With he's a very, let's see, from the 1800s poet. I'm pretty sure that I have that.
Toomer, Gene Toomer.
Toomer, yeah. Okay. Gene Toomer. I'm sorry, Gene Toomer. I'm calling you and saying and thinking Gene is yeah, Gene Toomer. And so because we had a whole list that we liked, but I knew all of those folks, but I hadn't done the Gene Toomer, so I wanted to see, and I thought it was really cool. A couple of things that you mentioned and wrote about. I like your blog, and so if people get a chance, please go check out his blog. So Jesse, I'm going to leave it to you now, and hopefully I have said all the things that you wanted folks to know about you. And again, if you all can let me know in the chat if you'd like to read tonight, as well as please check out the chat for other PSAs about everything that's happening in Upper PA with poetry. So Jesse, take it away. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. That was a great introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm thankful to be here with all of you. I see a lot of familiar faces and names, so I'll keep it clean. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I'm going to start my reading as I used to do when I was reading in New Jersey by reading a poem of a poet whose voice is stilled. And I'm going to start. I was struggling with this last night. Carol will tell you I had piles of books and I was looking around. And then today she actually found a picture of one of my poetry mentors. I don't know if people are familiar, but this is a picture of Yiktov. Yiktov in this picture is actually reading at the Geraldine R. Dodge Festival in New Jersey. And this is, according to the back here, it says November 1998. So I was in a class that he was giving. So great guy, a poet's poet, and that kind of thing. And there are a lot of Maryland connections and Maryland connections to New Jersey. Grace Cavalieri is good friends with Mary Masada Gilliam, who I received the second place award for, and that kind of thing. And in an interesting twist, when I was reading for Grace Cavalieri, says, I want this particular poem, and it turned out to be the poem that won second place in New Jersey. So it's exciting. So I'm going to read a poem from Yiktov, another poet's poet. This is one of his signature pieces. Boom, boom. I get to go to boom, boom. I get to kiss your cheek. I get to go to boom, boom. I get to kiss your cheek. I get to go to Australia. I get to go Aborigine. I get to go to boom, boom all by myself. I get to go to boom, boom. I get plenty of money. I get to make promises. I get to make sandwiches. I get to go to boom, boom. I get ideas circulating in my head. I get fevers. I get to kiss you. I get I get reputation. I get a reputation. I get everything simplified and amplified. I get to go to boom boom. I get plenty of recognition. I get inspiration. I get to go to boom boom. I get my directions faxed in from Manila. I get accounted for. I get perspiration on my way to boom boom. I get the automatic interpretation of my dreams. I get to go to boom boom. I get isolation blues. I get funky blues around the clock. I get whatever I get. I get to go to boom boom. I get telegrams before I arrive. I get inclination to linger. I get encouragement from neighbors. I get to go to boom boom. I get odd questions. I get focused. I get to go to boom boom. I get to realize the outcome. I get to see things as I suppose they have been. I get to go to boom boom. I get writings published. I get up close. I get turned on. I get to go to boom boom. I get to go to boom boom. Here I am. Yeah. Thank you. That poem, I love that poem because it's
Very nice.
thank you. I love that poem. Yiktov was a great guy, is a great guy. Um, and the kids love that poem. Yeah, they're you can see by the end of the poem, they're chanting boom boom. You know, it's great. Um, so now I'm going to start with my own work here. This one is my opening piece, Anthem. On the tip of your tongue, in the hum of your mama rocking you, the first thing in the morning of all your mornings, the last verse of the last hymn sung into the ear of your nights, the warm cup of cocoa in the winter cabin, safe in a storm by yourself, but not alone. The quad circle chant on the yard, clearing in the woods, the church stomp, ancient as a baby cry, the drum, the leathery smile of granddad, the well earned crow's feet of grandma. All right, I'm going to do something new here. This is this is a poem I gave to Hiram for his birthday. Hiram had like a secret birthday poem send thing. So I don't know what to call it, Hiram, but I sent this to him. This one's called "This Page is a Very Good Listener." This page can intimidate with twinkling blankness. This page is an easy lover and eater of ink. This page licks hot toner for breakfast only to lie splayed belly up on the sunny edge of the desk. This page gets Morse-coded ideas from universal poetry deities through ventilated hearts and minds. This page is taskmaster to you, but slave master to no one. This page is sacred altar of sacred pencil lead, all hail. This page is the beginning of a bitter riot or the sweet ending of a prayer. Amen. This page is insignificant to physics, but in dreams, they are a poem, all slanted truth and grandeur. This page could die for roast beef or pastrami on rye, but would be just as satisfied with none. This page is open portal, a testament. They say, I am the way all the way home. All right, let's see. I'm going to do the next poem I'm going to do is one that I do a lot for my mother. And so I'm just going to ask people to imagine Miles Davis's song, The Sorcerer, playing in the background. This one's called Sorcerer's Apprentice. Um, I can't scat like Amiri Baraka, you know, but just imagine Miles Davis Sorcerer. And after this event, I urge you to go and listen to it because it goes with this poem, Sorcerer Apprentice, for Mommy, Yiktov, and Margaret Walker. What kind of mother would let you make a mess in her sunlit Silver Spring kitchen, food coloring and water and clear plastic containers all over the table and onto the floor, and you with furrowed brow in yellow rubber gloves too big for your hands, busy making formulas to ward off monsters from outer space, of course? What kind of mother would take you to Museum of Natural History, to Hayden Planetarium, to Bronx Zoo, just to see your eyes pop wide open, then take you to Museum Shop, buy you golden plastic Brontosaurus and rocks and mineral kit and leather covered magnifying glass to better wonder with? What kind of mother would listen patiently to your theories about how electricity powered Ezekiel's wheels way, way up in the middle of the air? What kind of mother would tolerate and clandestinely finance your first Heathkit ham radio, wires all over the bedroom floor and out the window? Your first car, mustard brown Hornet with steering column stick shift. Your dreams hidden in underbed cigar box. All the baby teeth you shed, all the poems you banged out on that antique mechanical typewriter. My kind. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go on to, so I've got some new poems I put in here. I'm going to read this one, and this one is called My Body, Monument. And the thing I want to say about this poem is I read a very poetic essay that someone did along these lines, and I don't have her name. I need to find her author. I think it was in, I need to find the author's name. She was in the Atlantic. So anyway, My Body, Monument. Isn't my brown body victory enough? History enough for your exploits? Herein is written every ransacked Black hometown, every burned village and cross, every child head under boot heel, every exploded church, every despoiled field hand, washerwoman, house servant, maid, village dandy, sassy wench. Are my brown hands your hands? my my mind ticking with your thoughts before you have them. My eyes see me as alien and damaged and defective. My feet, a multitude running, marching, standing, stamping the words on your dead stones and bronze, your constitution into real. Okay, and I'm going to do this one. This one I've edited a bunch of times. I
That
really
was
like.
wonderful, Jesse.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Um, let's see. I've got another new, relatively new one here. Um, this one's called John Lewis, and it's got two parts. Part one, that Alabama smirk, that Mississippi mugshot, in that Mississippi mugshot, that be the spark of justice. Two, a man is only as good as his words. Born out the mouth of a white teenager suspended from high school cause she posted a disobedient photograph of a crowded pandemic hallway of unmasked children. She Georgia smirks and answers the camera's "Are you afraid?" question with good trouble. See, your life's only good as your word. And this one is relatively new. This one has a little backstory. This is in the voice of a woman that I participated with in a community emergency response team class years ago. And the title is why we're taking the community emergency response class, a post Katrina poem. Well, we are taking this class because we were in New Orleans during Katrina. The water dark and vicious rose up fast, pushing us up 3 flights, all the way up to the attic, where we had to climb up onto the roof. Me, my daughter sitting here next to me, and my little cousin in my daughter's arms. When the angry water ripped our cousin out my baby's hands and swept her clean under and away, she drowned. Do you know that to this day, my sister still blames my daughter for not being strong enough to hold on to cousin in the swirling water? So we hope to learn how we can keep each other in the coming storms, how we can help each other in the coming storms, because Lord knows all that death is too much on the heart of such a small girl. That poem is basically the story that a woman, and I don't have her name, told in that class. Um, so anyway, I'm going to shift up the energy a little bit and read this one. Joy, and this one is for the little brown boy in the black and white photograph. I will tell you, back when you were too small to know better, it's a shiny black Christmas locomotive, bigger than your hand, humming in circle after circle around and around the track. Your heart sings, your face opens, bursting again, again. That one, I got that one. I still have that photograph somewhere. It's a picture. I think Dad's feet are in the background, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, ah! And I got this train, and it's just going around. I love it. So let's see. Is um, this one is called Zenith, and I'm excited because Zenith is about to be published in uh, Obsidian. Um, in Obsidian. So that's coming out soon. I haven't received a copy, but they did tell me that they were going to publish this. So this poem is Zenith. It's called Zenith, and it's dedicated to Yusuf Kumunyaka and a retired engineer I met at a ham radio club meeting in New Jersey. Part one. He says to pare the poem down to essentials, to cut to the chase, like a carpenter, reveal the work, he says, the curved chips of sweet pine falling softly at his feet. Part two. He says the way Zenith engineers back in the day made a new TV model was, number one, build a prototype from the blueprints, whiff of tart ammonia. Number two, next, carefully remove parts one at a time till the damn thing stopped, till the damn thing went dark or quiet. Three, then he says, winking, his voice turning conspiratorial, his right index finger drumming each next syllable into the table between us like Morse code. They would pick, they would put back in that last component, the one that brought everything back to life. Thank you. That also is based on two real incidents. I probably at the same Jardinar Dodge Festival that Yiktov was at, I took a class with Yusuf Kumunyaka. I love his work. And he talked about his dad being a carpenter. And the other incident actually did take place. I did have a conversation with someone from Zenith, and he told me that story. I couldn't hardly believe it as an electrical engineer. I was horrified. But I thought it was interesting. I had never heard that before. So let's see. All right. Let's see how we're going. This is a recent poem. Um, those of us who are of a certain age will recognize some of the references. This one is entitled All These Black Hands, and I dedicate it to my mother, dad, Carol, who's on this call, and Dr. Thompson and the MedStar colonoscopy team. All these black hands healing me, holding me through it, telling me I'm gonna be all right, giving and taking blood, anesthesia, diagnosis. Howard Meharry, Ohio State hands, all calling me sir, mister, and by my last name. Your I love you hands on my shoulder and patting my back as we sleep. The hands I almost forgot, tying my shoes and patting both sides just so after your perfect bowl, holding the handlebars until I can get on, and then balancing me, telling me this is what it feels like. Big hands, crossing mine against the chest, baptizing me in the name, calloused with mole on knuckle on left, on the left, offering me I-95 Hershey bar for the ride to Howard with Army War Story. On your ample hips, suggesting that I write poems for English class for book reviews, smiling at me, pushing my badge through the x-ray machine, noticing, pushing my bag through the x-ray machine, noticing my badge lanyard, telling me your father is my frat brother when I cross over building security. And mine, still as soft as a baby, trembling a little, holding this pen above this bottomless page.
Wow, very nice.
Thank you. How am I doing for time?
I think you're doing okay for time. Maybe if you've got one or two more, we're gonna do a little Q&A.
Okay, sure,
So
sure.
that I've got a couple of questions to ask you, especially about. So I think that would be an alpha from Alpha chapter? Is that like,
That is
whoa, like,
correct.
whoa, whoa, whoa? Like,
Affirmative.
yeah. So for
First
those,
of all,
I don't know if Liz and I saw Liz laugh about this. I don't know if you guys know, but in the fraternity, I'm a Delta, in the African American fraternity. All right, go ahead, Laura. In the African American fraternity world, we get caught into, sort of, as everybody does, right? Who's first, who's doing what, who did what, and everything. And so his fraternity has a wonderful lineage of very and I'm totally into social justice, so it has a great lineage of those that have been involved in social justice. So that was the only reason why I had to sort of, as you say, tap my hat, or I had to give him a little props on that one. So
yeah.
thank
Yep.
you. Yeah, Jesse, we have room for like maybe 2 more, and then we'll
Okay.
do a little Q&A.
All right. All right. Since my cousin is on, and I should say the story about my folks is just about all the women in my family are deltas, and all the men in my family are alphas. So that's a whole nother conversation. I'm going to read
You
this
have a very
poem.
good lineage there. Very
Oh,
good.
thank you.
I really like that.
I'm
All the
inclined
women in
to.
my family are deltas too. Yeah, that's good. That works out good.
There's one exception, my mom, and mom's Zeta, and my father is, I used to joke and say that he pledged the army, but that's another story. Um, this one's for my cousin. Muhammad Ali poem number 3. And we all need heroes, men to chase the boogeyman from our closets and close our bedroom windows to the storms that rage just outside. Men who hold us by our teeny balled up fists and tell us it's all right to lose, but to stick to our guns when we're right and never give up or in. Men who call us big man and rub our heads when we know we're small. Big men who lift us up high onto their broad shoulders so that we can see the whole of their big world. That's dedicated to my daddy. And you say one more? I'm going to read one more. And this is how I end. This is the gratitude poem. And many wondrous things happen to me, but not by me. And that's a quote from my Uncle George W. Alexander, who's also an alpha. He's in a mega chapter. I received many gifts, although I did not know them by their correct names at the time of their offering. Take this poem. I so wish that she were mine, but she arrived whole, grown, and said, like Mrs. Green and Montclair High School English class, and now you write. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse. That's wonderful. You can really hear the ancestry in your poems. I really enjoy quite so many of them. And it was funny when you read the Muhammad Ali poem. I think I just said like big man to my grandson the other day, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it was like, whoa, like, so thank you for that. That was just wonderful.
Thank you. Any questions?
So one of the questions that I had, and I think I had already looked it up because I knew who your favorite, who some of your favorite poets were.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was wondering was, we read so many poetry books, and we're constantly, of course, reading each other's books and this, that, and the other. But I was curious. I think you have sort of maybe a sci-fi side to you or
Yes.
something. I was right. I was sort of
Yes.
picking that up in some of the readings I was doing, and I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that
Well, I
with us,
like,
and
sure,
how
go
that
ahead.
works into your poetry, and if you're doing any type of fiction writing, or sci-fi writing that you could share with us.
I haven't done any fiction writing. I have a few sci-fi poems. I don't know if anyone here remembers the cartoon, one of the first animes called Gigantor. Gigantor is like early anime, so it's about basically it's a giant robot that saves people and this kind of stuff. So I actually wrote a poem about Gigantor, and that kind of thing. And it kind of it started out as just a small poem. Most of my poems are relatively short, and then it got big. And that poem is actually going to be published also by Obsidian soon, which I'm excited about. I also have, so I have been writing mostly poetry, some sci-fi poetry. I've got some early poetry that I did a long time ago that I tried to sell to, I think it's called Fantasy and Sci-Fi Magazine, or Sci-Fi Fantasy Magazine. You used to be able to see it in when there were bookstores open like this. It was usually towards the bottom of the display, you know, where all the geek stuff is. But anyway, I tried to sell them this poem. I have it. They didn't buy it. They weren't interested.
Yeah.
But yes, I have written sci-fi poems. I don't have any sci-fi fiction, in terms of prose, but
Okay.
that's an idea.
Yeah,
I've been,
yeah. I mean, you've written such great reviews on things. And again, I invite people to go to your site and see the different reviews that you've written on different books. I mean, Water Dancer. Tiny Coates, book, the Water Dancer. That I fell in love with that as well. I mean, I think I had the book and I started with the book and then I did the audio, and I think I sat still for 5 hours, like for the entire time, for the rest of the time, listening to the audio and flipping through the book at the same time, because it was just so, just so riveting. And you wrote a great review on that.
oh, thanks.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, Carol and I read that book too, and we bought. It was one of those things. We actually bought two books, so because she knew I like writing in my books and stuff like this. So we checked it. It was fun. We did like a reading. We had a little mini reading club here, and we were
Oh,
like,
that's
"Oh, what
cool.
chapter are you on? Oh, I'm on this chapter, and this and that." So yeah, I like Water Dancer. I'm not going to spoil it. No
Yeah,
spoilers. You got to
no
read it,
spoilers.
but
Gotta read it.
it's like, I saw the term before. It's not. There's a term called, I'm blanking on it, but it's not futuristic. It's, I can't remember the term, but it's like
Hmm.
Afro-retroistic, and it's
Oh,
pretty interesting from a science fiction standpoint. I love it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I may
it
have to read
is.
it
It is.
again.
It's interesting too from a fantasy standpoint,
Right. That's
which, yeah, and oftentimes we don't get involved in writing fantasy, so it's really kind of, cool to have seen that with his writing. Um, the other thing I was just going to ask you is maybe just a little bit about I guess with you, like, sort of standard of, what's your favorite book, or what types of things do you read besides the poetry books?
okay.
What other types of literature do you read?
Well, I read highbrow, very important literature like the Black Panther Intergalactic Empire comic book series, um, which is also written by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yes, yes,
So I'm kind
yes,
of addicted to that. Um,
yes.
I, on any given moment, I've got favorite books right now. I'm reading uh, Amanda Gorman's book that
Okay.
just arrived today. So this is her inaugural poem and that kind of thing. And that was just really exciting. Um,
So I don't know if you looked up Amanda Gorman at all or anything about her,
mhm,
but it's really interesting because she's actually a spoken word poet, right? So
right.
she really started out as a spoken word artist, which I was like so happy about.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and it's interesting because if you go up on I guess maybe, I don't know if YouTube has it, or one of poetry. But anyway, some of the spoken word sites, you can see where she's evolved, the
Hmm.
evolution, especially in her
Mm.
speaking, and it's just so wonderful to see
Hmm.
that, to see the growth of that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And of course she has that speech, she has the stuttering impediment, and it's interesting to see from where it entered into her poetry, and then for her to do this speech at the inauguration, to see where she had really grown from that. And I thought, wow, that's just a wonderful learning experience for folks, right?
Yeah.
In terms of overcoming,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
so. I agree. And it was interesting. Because I heard the poem and I loved it. I thought it was great. Um, and then I was fooling around on social media, on Twitter in particular, and I saw Jericho Brown, who is my frat,
Mhm.
up there saying, you poets, leave her alone. Stop saying it." And I was like, what is going on? And
Mm,
so, it was kind of I don't know how else to describe it, kind of an envy kind of thing. Like, who was she and
mm,
how did she get here? And how did, and this and that. But when you read her background, you
right.
see, first of all, she's an old soul. A lot of people are saying that. And the other part is that she went to elders and to me in a very traditional African way and
Mhm.
sought their blessing,
Yes,
and
yes,
she went
yes,
to
yes,
Elizabeth Alexander. She went to any
yes,
number of poets. She
yes,
went to
yes.
Oprah. She
Well,
went to a
she's a
bunch of
Harvard
people.
graduate. So she's a
Yeah.
Harvard graduate,
Yeah.
although she, and I think, her background story, single mom, essentially. I mean, her parents were divorced, but single, who really struggled to make sure she got the highest level of education that was possible. And I'm sure that just because she went to Harvard, I'm sure it wasn't necessarily easy getting there or
Hmm.
even sustaining there,
Hmm.
because for those of us that, went to majority white institutions or grew up in white, private schooling, it looks glamorous sometimes from the outside, but it's not necessarily glamorous when you're in the midst of it. And I have that background, so I can share that with you, that there's a lot that goes on with that. My last question of putting you on the spot is going to
Sure.
be about the griot. And I tell you, I went to Tennessee, to Jonesboro, Tennessee, where it's the storytelling capital of the world.
Ah,
And and they
I didn't
have
know that.
this beautiful building that was built there. This gentleman built it on behalf of his wife, who loved to do storytelling. And they have different conferences, different people come in for
Hmm.
storytellers and this, that, and the other. So it's really kind of interesting. Um, I think that now they've probably expanded to having griots, and I'm hoping that you can share with us what that, like I know what it is, but I'd like to share with the group, what that is. And but it was so interesting because my girlfriend and I were there, and uh, Jonesboro is all white,
Hmm.
white small town.
Hmm.
And my girlfriend and I are there where we did a road trip out to Nashville. So we stopped there. We happened to stop there. And we go to the museum, and they have a poet that comes from Africa,
Hmm.
and he does storytelling. They have storytellers that come in every month, and he does storytelling. And it was just so interesting because everybody kept going, do you guys know him? Do you guys know him? And we're like, yeah, no, we don't know who he is, but we'd love to hear some of his storytelling at some point.
Hmm.
But we did have an opportunity to see a storyteller there. And the most interesting thing about this is, so you got to look up Jonesboro. I'm telling you, it's only one
Hmm.
stop sign in the whole town.
Huh.
And it's in Tennessee, right? And but anyway, they had this beautiful building and the beautiful theater, and in the theater there were 100 seats in the theater that evening.
Hmm.
Um, and the storyteller was coming in. She was in from Alaska, and she
Wow.
told some great, yeah, she flew in. She does like they do, like the storyteller comes in and then they kind of do like a little mini, workshop kind of thing. But there were 100 seats in there. And my girlfriend and I were the only African Americans. And out of the 100 seats, 95 were full,
Wow.
full of
Wow.
people coming to hear the story.
Wow.
So can you share with us your journey in terms of the griot, or what the griot is, and what that's all about? Because I just love the idea of storytellers.
How he deals with this.
Okay. What was that? Oh, uh, well, a lot of,
I
as you
got
could,
to him.
as you've heard, a lot of my poems are stories. And I didn't realize it until relatively recently. I started looking through the work and I said, I'm telling stories. Most of them, a good number of them are stories. So I'm not quite to griot yet. I'm becoming, and I'm there's some things I want to do with my work that involve more storytelling and learning how to tell stories and that kind of thing. There was a period of time where I was reading up on storyteller. I have a book by Brother Blue. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Brother Blue. He's no longer on this plane. I'll share the book in the chat when I get a chance. But Brother Blue is a storyteller. He's a storyteller, I believe in California. And he's got this beautiful book. It's a little slim, slender book. And I won't spoil it for you, but he talks about his techniques and how he tells stories and that kind of thing. I also have another large tabletop book um, by a storyteller, and I'm blanking on her name. Um, hmm, who I was basically I was reading her stories and how she tells stories. She talks about how to do that. Um, so this is something I'm exploring, and I'm actually beginning to purposely explore. A lot of my poetry is basically telling a story.
Hmm.
So I'm really
Oh,
interested.
that's great.
So it sort of merges with the stuff that I do as a job. I do a lot of technical writing, and and there's a big to do with how do I lead people to achieve their objectives? And a lot of it has to do with both words and pictures. So I'm really interested in comics and ways of using comics and poetry to tell stories and to help people understand things. I'm fascinated by, like I said, professionally, if you want to call it that, I'm fascinated by visual representation, some of the stuff that Tufty has been doing for numbers and that kind of thing. And I've got a book called Visual Language by Robert Horn. And I just discovered something today on LinkedIn by, let's see, I don't remember the guy's name, but it's called Unflattening, or the
Oh,
Unflattening, which is essentially the author's thesis, his I think it's his master's level thesis at Harvard, uh, written as a comic book,
oh, wow,
and
that's
it's
interesting.
fascinating. It's really
Yeah,
interesting,
yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So I like to think that I'm a griot in the making.
Well, good. Well, you'll have to come back and share some of your stories when you get them down with us, because that would be great. It'd be fun. Maybe we'll even do a storytelling night and invite some other griots to come through. But that was nice. Thank you so much. I mean, your poetry was great, and we were so thrilled to have you. I know you're probably a little bit tired of speaking now, so I'll let you give your voice a rest. We didn't have anyone sign up to read tonight. So with that, the fact that we didn't have anybody to sign up to read, I was actually going to, unless somebody jumps into the chat in the next couple of seconds, I was actually going to read a poem for you all. And I'll read mine, and then perhaps if some folks change their minds and decide that they want to read, then they can, because normally we go till about 7:30. And so I'm going to read this poem. And what this is it's a compilation of 3 poems, and something that I did that I've done before. Um,
And if you visit the Berks Bards, if you go to the television station and look at the 1-minute poems and watch the 1-minute poems run through during the month of April, you will hear my part of this poem. It's my answer to the poem, to Maya Angelou's poem. Okay. And again, this is a compilation of an adaptation from both Paul Laurence Dunbar, We Wear the Mask, which was written in 1892. Maya Angelou, which is from Old Black Men, which is a poem that was written in 1988 when she observed a woman on a New York bus one evening. And then it ends with my poem, Thinking About Myself, which was written in 2018 and highlights Maya Angelou called That's Survival Apparatus, so she says. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It shades our cheeks and hides our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts, we smile and mouth with mirrored subtleties. Why should the world think otherwise? In counting all our tears and sighs, nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh my God, our tears to thee from tortured souls arise, and we sing, oh baby doll, now we sing, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile, but let the world think otherwise, we wear the mask. When I think about myself, I almost laugh myself to death. My life has been one great big joke, a dance that's walked, a song that spoke. I laugh so hard, I almost choke when I think about myself. 70 years in these folks' world, the child I works for calls me girl. I say, yes, ma'am, for working's sake. I'm too proud to bend and too poor to break. So I laugh until my stomach ache when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. I laugh so hard, I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but eat the rind. Until I start crying when I think about myself and my folks and the children. When I think about myself, I must think of others too. My skin tells the truth. There is no pure hue. We are brothers and sisters, yet hate you tend to spew, not always in what you say, but often in what you do. When I think about myself and the everyday snide, I cannot smile, I cannot hide, I simply side eye. I suppose it's my pride that won't let me hide or tame my tongue or let it ride. No, when I think about myself, I think about the shelf that holds my great granny's picture and the Bible, because I realize I'm liable not to be here. It was her strength to see beyond the rape and hate, to know that one day someone, little Pie, would tell the truth of her fate, understanding that her hope had not escaped. So when I think about myself, I cannot grin, I cannot hide, I cannot lie, but I can laugh and laugh out loud, because on the clay path of slaves, I walk real proud. Thank you. So I wanted to make sure I read that so that when you all went onto the TV site and you saw the last part of it, you had an understanding of what was going on. And I think we did have one person that did sign up to read or wanted to read. And so we do have enough time. And I think that's Jim. Jim?
Yep.
Hi, did
That's
you want
me.
to share? Yeah, hey, share a little bit about yourself, because we do have some newcomers on board, and the title, of course, of your poem.
Alrighty then. My name's James. I'm a recent graduate of Penn State Berks. I have a degree in writing and digital media. and I'm currently hunting for a job, but I've been a member of Berks Bards for several years now, and I enjoy writing and sharing my work with my peers. And is it all right if I read 2 poems? Okay. I didn't get the chance to do it last time, so I kind of overcompensated. First one is called,
Okay.
sorry. First one is called Bleeding Kansas. It started with a trickle, just seeping through the cracks. Now turn around, what's that sound? All the levees have broken. Your journey's tragic detour, your map drawn between the lines. Yankee haters, free staters, know nothings, every last one. Now Kansas is bleeding, and the shepherds are crying. Now the curtain is rising, and the lambs lay dying. It started with a tremor, just creeping up your spine. Now turn around, what's that sound? All the ceilings are shaking. Your story's darkest chapter, written in between the lines. Red legs, draftman's dregs, they all swell up under the sun. Now Kansas is bleeding, and the shepherds are crying. Now the curtain is rising, and the lambs lay dying. And I have a second one.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
called- Yep, no problem. The next one is called Bonnie Blue. I once met a lovely lady. She said her name was Bonnie Blue. She flashed me a pearly smile, whispering words I dared not mention. She offered me an apple. She said I'd know just what to do. Then she took me by the hand, down the road of good intentions. Tossing another penny down that old stone wishing well, Bonnie Blue, I sing to you, don't hurry me on down to hell. Holding cards close to my chest, watching for the dealer's tell. Bonnie Blue, I sing to you, don't hurry me on down to hell. I stood on the precipice. I could hear the distant thunder. Bonnie flashed a pearly grin, and I was strapped in for the ride. So I leapt into the void, and only then did I wonder. Was it my guardian angel or the devil I stood beside? Tossing another penny down that old stone wishing well, Bonnie Blue, I sing to you, don't hurry me on down to hell. Holding cards close to my chest, watching for the dealer's tell. Bonnie Blue, I sing to you, don't hurry me on down to hell.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, guys, it's 7:01. So there's a couple things. Yes, Jesse, it's wonderful to hear your poetry. Yes, yes, very nice. Yes, I agree. You got some comments in the chat there. I put a couple of links to tomorrow to the First Friday event. I put a couple of links to some other things. I do handle the EC Poetry and Prose Facebook page, which is Ellicott City Poetry and Prose, and there's a lot of notices on there as well as Maryland writers. So we'll leave it up for a few minutes, for a little while for you guys to check out things in the chat. And if anyone has any questions, and we just want to say thank you, Jesse, thank you, Jim, and thank you all for attending. We really appreciate you being here and just keeping poetry alive and keeping the mic going.